Hello everybody and welcome back to another edition of TJR Reviews. In this review we're going to discuss We're the Millers, which came out earlier this month in theaters. Basically the premise of We're the Millers is that a local drug dealer gets robbed by three thugs, and now his boss is threatening him to kill him if he doesn't go to Mexico and pick up a supply of, as his boss put it, marijuana, and he called it a smidge, or a smidge and a half. And being that he's a drug dealer, he's got like 5 o'clock shadow, maybe, I guess you could say 7 o'clock shadow since it's more than just a little bit, and kind of long hair, not as long as mine, like maybe up to, like, here, maybe? Right where my fingers are touching. So basically, he hires a cheap stripper, played by Jennifer Aniston. The person playing the drug dealer, David, is Jason Sudeikis. Then he hires two kids. One, Kenny, played by Will Poulter. Poulter? Is that how you say his name? Poulter? Poulter, probably. That's how you say the name. Who is a 18-year-old virgin who lives in his building. And Emma Roberts, who plays Casey, who is an off-the-street runaway who at first is like a gutter punk, but during the transformation process for her and David, and even Rose, or as we learn later in the movie, Sarah, played by Jennifer Aniston, Kenny's the only one who doesn't change. Emma Roberts becomes more like the typical girly girl. David is got a haircut, completely shaven, and Rose, or Sarah, looks like the typical soccer mom. So, basically, they head to New Mexico, I believe, at first, where they get the RV, and they start on the road trip. I think early on in the road trip, there's like a fireworks stand, because the movie's based in around 4th of July weekend. So, basically, Emma Roberts wants to pull over for the fireworks. Look, fireworks, fireworks, fireworks! And David's like, no, we're not doing it. And then they all get in an argument about it, and eventually they cut to a scene where they're on the side of the road, and David gave in, and there's like one teeny firework in the middle of the deserty area, and they let it off, and then after it's let off, David turns to them and he's like, are you f***ing happy now? Let's go. And that was really funny. The audience in the theater I was in laughed. Then they got to Mexico, and they got the smidge. The smidge ended up being the whole RV being filled with it practically, except for like the general seating areas. Under the seating areas and stuff, though, was filled with the pot. Pablo Chacon, I think, is the name that David used to get the pot, because that's what his boss, Brad, played by Ed Helms, told him to. And it turns out Pablo Chacon's another dealer of drugs that Brad is, I guess, a rival with. So the main guy, One Eye, I think he's called, him and Pablo Chacon go search for the Millers, and they end up finding him. In between that point and when they get found by Pablo Chacon, they meet another RV family, the Fitzgeralds, I believe. Don, Edie, and Melissa. They met them at the border to go back to the United States. And that's one of the weed things fell out from above Jennifer Aniston, and then pretended it's a baby named LeBron, and it was really funny. Don, when they revealed the name of the baby, Don goes, "Oh, a little French fella." It was a really funny moment. And then the RV for the Millers broke down, and the Fitzgeralds saved the day. Then they ended up camping together, and it all fell downhill from there. Edie and Don are apparently a swinger couple, and they thought that they had the feeling from David and Rose that they were swingers, so they went along with it, and there was breast touching between the females. Dawn's like playing with David's ear during that part, and that was actually a pretty funny moment. Then they cut to the RV with the two Miller kids, and Kenny reveals to Casey that he's never kissed a girl. She thought he was going to say that he hasn't had sex before, but then he reveals he never kissed a girl, so then they start kissing, and remember, they're supposed to be a fake family. It's not real. And it's also a movie, so even if they were supposed to be real brother and sister, it's not real. Well, stuff happens in real life sometimes like that, but that's a whole nother story. So they end up kissing, and they get caught by their parents, and then the mom, Jennifer Aniston, starts jumping in to help him learn how to kiss a girl, and they go back and forth. She teaches him a trick with her tongue, and then Melissa, the person that has a crush on Kenny, she catches everything, and they basically get in trouble. They drop before the camping thing. They dropped off the Miller RV to a repair shop. So next morning they go there. Then they get caught by Pablo Chacon, and at this point, like they start revealing to the bad guys, or that they're not a real family. Now they just got hired by the drug dealer, and then Pablo Chacon has Jennifer Aniston's character strip in the auto shop, and it was really funny. I mean, as a straight male, I kind of enjoyed it, but other than that, it was really funny because they kept cutting to the other characters, and I think I saw an interview where they talked about that scene specifically that Jennifer Aniston had to film, where the other actors weren't actually in the perimeter at the time she shot that, so they put them in a different area or whatever, and they shot their reactions on a little monitor that a director or a producer would see of her acting that out. So they actually only watched a little box of her performance, but they made it look good. They edited it to make it look like they were right there, and it tied together towards the end of her striptease performance. But at one point when she was doing the stripping act, she pulled a lever and doused water on herself, and they cut to Jason Sudeikis, and he looks at the screen, he looks at the audience, and he just goes... It was really funny. A lot of people in the theater laughed. And then, as you would see in the trailer or the previews, she's, shaken after she hits the one thing causing sparks, and Kenny adjusts his pants, and then Sudeikis hits him in the back of the head and goes, "Have some respect, that's your mother." Even though everybody's seen that line in the trailers and everything, people still busted out laughing. That line is one of the most hilarious of the movie. They end up getting away. Kenny gets bit on the balls by a spider, and in the movie they actually do show it, his gigantic ball, as David put it at one point in the film. He even told him to rub some dirt on it and he'll be fine at that point, which was funny. Surprisingly, they didn't keep the line where, as Kenny was falling down from passing out, they didn't keep the part where he said, "I can't feel my bingo." I think that would have been better than him not saying anything at all, but I'm sure in an unrated version of the DVD, or alternate scenes that will be in bonus features of the DVD, that they'll have that. And, it was really funny. They end up in the hospital. Brad wonders where they are, so David gets a new deadline of the next night. Later that night. And, he ends up getting now a $500,000 reward for doing the smuggling of the drugs. They end up getting back in the RV. Then they have problems near a carnival, which was near the hospital. And, Pablo Chacon appears again. The Fitzgeralds are also there. Kenny reveals that they're not a real family to the Fitzgeralds, then Don fights One Eye, and then Pablo Chacon. Well, Kenny actually punches Pablo Chacon, knocks him out, then makes out with Melissa, and after he kissed her, he goes, "Wow, you kiss better than my sister." And then they show Emma Roberts going, "Hey!" And it was really funny. Then they cut to Jason Sudeikis' character David back at his boss's building with all the weed, and Brad, his boss, double crosses him, saying he wasn't going to give him the money, but he's not going to kill him either, so like, just give me the stuff, walk away. But David ended up double crossing Brad, and the DEA, which Don Fitzgerald worked for, ended up arresting him, and Don was the leading arresting officer, and he tells David that in exchange for his testimony against both Brad and Pablo Chacon, that he gets witness protection for the next 3 to 6 months. And David goes, "Just me?" And he goes, "Yeah." And then Don goes, "And other witnesses to the crime." And then they show David smiling. He just does a smile. Then they cut to like a really nice house in the suburbs, and it ends up where it's David and Sarah, and they watch a YouTube video Casey posted of Kenny's bingo being bitten by a spider. I can't remember. It wasn't YouTube. It was just a spoof of YouTube site that she posted it on. And then they cut to, I think, the Johnsons that move into that neighborhood right next door to the Millers, and they have, the thing where they meet the family, and it basically ends the film where they say, "We're the Millers," and then they go back to eating their lunch, saying how they hate the new neighbors, and they can't wait till the trial's over, and at that point they show, weed plants growing. So all in all, it was a really good film. I had high expectations going into it, and I think it delivered. I think I would give it a 4.5 out of 5 stars. It was missing a few things, and stuff was a little bit off, but all in all, I thought it was a really good film. So if you saw We're the Millers, leave a comment below on what you thought of it, with a star rating if you want. It's up to you. As far as... I don't know if they would do a sequel. I mean, this is just some, other closing thoughts. I think they could do a sequel, but I mean, the way they ended it, it doesn't seem like they can. But, anything in Hollywood can happen, and they can work whatever story they want. But I thought those four, the main actors, as the Miller family, they worked really well together, and I would definitely go see a sequel to We're the Millers. They could have Pablo Chacon break out of jail, or Brad break out of jail, and then go after them, and stuff like that. I think in the second one is when they maybe come together and become a real family, because really Casey and Kenny don't have their real parents around, and I mean, it's basically implied that David and Sarah are now in love. So, why not? Make a sequel, have them become a real family. I mean, they can do it if they want to. I mean, this movie's, made triple the budget, so, I mean, it's up to Warner Brothers and New Line Cinema, but I think it could happen. So again, leave your thoughts on We're the Millers down below if you saw it, and thank you for watching this edition of TJR Reviews. Tune in next time for another review of another movie that I have seen.